Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to AM News on Global Television. Coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Jumai Manson. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now the news in full. In a move that could significantly alter the political dynamics of Osun State, renowned businessman and technocrat Dr. Akin Okumbi has officially declared his intention to contest the 2026 off-cycle governorship election under the banner of the All Progressive Congress (APC). The declaration, made before a crowd of party stalwarts, supporters and traditional leaders in Osogbo, marks a major political shift as Okumbi positions himself as a unifying force with a vision to deliver accountable and inclusive governance to the people of Osun State. Over now to Samuel Odi's report.
Addressing a gathering of party
We apologize. That report will be brought in our subsequent bulletin. The Supreme Court has upheld the election of Senator Monday Okpebholo as a governor of Edo State, dismissing the appeal filed by People's Democratic Party PDP candidate Asue Ighodalo. A five-member panel led by Justice Lawal Garba ruled unanimously that the appellants failed to provide sufficient evidence of overvoting and non-compliance with the Electoral Act. The Apex Court also noted that the People's Democratic Party only challenged results in 395 out of 4,519 polling units and that their witnesses did not substantially prove the case. Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party candidate Asue Ighodalo has condemned the Supreme Court's affirmation of Governor Okpebholo's election, describing the judgment as a deep betrayal of people's will. In an emotional statement, Ighodalo vowed not to retreat or forget the support of his followers, saying the struggle for a better Edo continues. He alleged the 2024 poll was rigged in favor of the All Progressive Congress, insisting the Apex Court failed to deliver true justice despite acknowledging the ruling as final. The Supreme Court has named Senator Aneke Mbasi as the new chairman of the Committee on Diaspora and Non-Governmental Organizations. Senate President Godswill Akpabio announced the appointment during plenary, confirming Mbasi's replacement of Senator Natasha Akpoti, who is currently on suspension. Akpoti Uduaghan was reassigned to the Diaspora and NGOs Committee in February after she was removed as chair of the Senate Committee on Local Content during a minor reshuffle. Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu is reinforcing the push for women's inclusion in governance, describing it not as an act of charity but a recognition of competence and diversity. Her message was delivered during a special session of the National Assembly Open Week focus on gender representation. Our correspondent Annette Patrick tells us more.
At a high-level engagement on constitutional reforms at the National Assembly, the First Lady of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, emphasized the urgent need to increase women's participation in governance. Represented by the chairperson of the House Committee on Women Affairs, Honorable Kafilat Ogbara, the First Lady threw her weight behind the proposed constitutional amendment to reserve 10% of legislative seats for women and 5% for persons with disabilities.
As we reflect on Nigeria's democratic journey, we must be honest about where we are and where we bold to be and where we need to go. The truth is that women remain significantly underrepresented in all levels of governance, despite making up nearly half of the population. This is not just a question of fairness, it is a matter of strengthening our democracy and deepening our national development.
This comes as Nigeria continues to fall short of the United Nations recommended 35% gender quota. Of the 469 lawmakers in the 10th Assembly, only 20 are women. In the 2023 regional elections, just 48 of over 1,000 female candidates were elected to state assemblies, a mere 4.7% success rate. The session drew stakeholders from civil society, political parties, and the international development community, all calling for urgent legislative action to bridge the gender gap.
The 360 seats remain. What is being sought to be created in the special seats bill is additional seats that will increase women representation, either by the fact that these new seats are added or by their ability to contest with men in the existing 360 seats. So no seat is being taken away from any man. It's really that, as the minority leader, Right Honorable Kingsley Chinda, mentioned, it is, of course, very embarrassing to go to meetings internationally where Nigeria's votes are reduced simply because there are not enough women in those meetings.
The special seats bill is not a favor to women. It is a national necessity. It is a constitutional corrective long overdue to ensure democracy works for all citizens. It is about justice, representation, and the sustainable development of our dear country, Nigeria.
As constitutional amendments inch closer to reality, advocates say real change will depend not just on legislation, but on sustained political will and public support. Aniette Patrick, Global Television News.
Nigeria's House of Representatives and Malawi's Parliament are strengthening ties, placing women and youth inclusion and governance as the heart of their collaboration. The Deputy Speaker of Nigeria's House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, says the National Assembly is committed to driving inclusive governance through legislative reforms. He spoke while receiving a delegation from Malawi's Parliament, led by First Deputy Speaker Honorable Madilato Kazombo, at the National Assembly in Abuja. Anita Patrick has more.
Speaking during the engagement, Honorable Kalu described the visit as a milestone in advancing parliamentary democracy and deepening parliamentary cooperation. He highlighted Nigerians' push to close the gender gap in politics through the proposed reserved seats bill, a constitutional amendment aimed at increasing female representation at both federal and state levels.
By the success countries like you have achieved by including women and enjoying the prosperity that women inclusion has brought to your government. We are approaching it with what we call the reserved seats bill.
In response, Malawi's Deputy Speaker, Honorable Madalisto Kazombo, called for stronger interparliamentary collaboration and proposed establishing a Malawian High Commission in Nigeria.
We promote the youth, we promote the gender. I'm coming from an independent. I hear Nigeria has a lot of independent MPs. In Malawi, 55 MPs were independent, and I was leading the independent MPs. So we promote democracy in its totality. Democracy at party level, democracy at national level.
Both leaders emphasized the importance of building vibrant, inclusive parliaments that can hold the executive accountable and deliver on democratic promises. Aniette Patrick, Global Television News.
In a bid to address capacity gaps in social standards operation in Nigeria, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs has organized a capacity building workshop for the staff of the ministry and her implementing partners on the social standards nod on the Sustainable Procurement, Environmental and Social Standards Enhancement Project. Now, the Minister of Women Affairs, Imam Suleiman Ibrahim, who was represented by the Coordinator Sustainable Procurement, Environmental and Social Standards Enhancement Project, Benjamin Okweja, says the workshop aims to address the deficiencies which often impacted negatively on the development of communities. Over now to Saadia Yakubu for details.
Gender-based violence, communal clashes, displacement from ancestral homes, acquisition of land, labor and working conditions have continued to devastate individuals, families and households, thereby affecting their overall physical, social, psychological and economic well-being. The Minister of Women Affairs, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, who was represented by the Coordinator, Sustainable Procurement, Environmental and Social Standards Enhancement Project, Benjamin Okweja, said the project is centered to developing academy and certification programs to ensure practitioners in the social development, procurement and environment sectors of the economy project are equipped to meet the global standard as well as improve service delivery.
As you are aware, the social standards node of the STECI project is of particular interest to the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and the entirety of the Nigerian vulnerable and disadvantaged group, which the Ministry and her implementing partners on the social standards node of the STECI project are representing.
He says the federal government will not rest on its oars to ensure adequate implementation of all provisions of social development, procurement and environment sectors of the economic project's development objective, as well as contribute to increasing the supply of skilled workers.
As it continues to devastate individuals, families and households, thereby affecting their overall physical, social, psychological and economic well-being. It is most importantly for this reason that the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, Federal Ministry of Labour and Employment, and Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development will not rest on their oars.
The training, which is online, has undoubtedly become a vital tool in the 21st century, offering flexibility, accessibility to update knowledge given the widespread use of ICT. Sadia Yakubu Yahya, Global Television News.
Nigeria Customs Service says it has recorded significant progress in its efforts to protect the country's biodiversity and stop the illegal wildfire trade. The Comptroller General of Customs, Adewale Adeniyi, who was represented by the National Public Relations Officer of the service, Abdullahi Maiwada, disclosed this while handing over interceptive seized donkey parts to the National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency at the Nigerian Customs Service Government Warehouse in Karu, Abuja. Here is Kike Lomo Okeri's report.
Addressing newsmen at the event, the Comptroller General of Customs, Adewale Adeniyi, who was represented by the National Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Customs Service, Assistant Comptroller Abdullahi Maiwada, says the seizure is part of the ongoing effort to curb illegal wildlife trade and protect endangered species in line with the Nigerians' obligation under the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. Maiwada says wildlife trafficking is often connected to other crimes like money laundering, arms smuggling, and other illegal financial flow. He added that Customs is investing in surveillance technology, species identification tools, and digital forensic to support investigation and prosecutions.
Some of the pangolin scales we intercept, some come from Central African Republic, through Cameroon to Nigeria. Nigeria will be used as a transit hub to move these items out of the country via our ports. So those are some of the interceptions now. If you look at the movement of cash, the movement of these items, there is a close connectivity between some of these crimes and other form of criminality. This is where
it reaffirmed the service commitment to enforcing Nigeria's custom lot site agreement and environmental regulations. Maiwada therefore urged the public, especially those in border areas and transport hub, to report any suspicious activities related to wildlife products. While receiving the seized donkey part on behalf of the National Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency, a representative of the Director General, Professor Innocent Bariko, commended the Nigerian Customs for its unwavering commitment to fight against illegal wildlife trafficking. He noted that such seizures are critical to protecting Nigerian biodiversity and upholding its international obligations on the sites.
That with dedication, strategic partnership, and unwavering commitment, we have significant
headway in this vital fight. In the last 6 months alone, we have rescued over 220 live animals.
He reiterated Nigeria readiness to continue working closely with customs and other enforcement agencies to dismantle wildlife trafficking networks and ensure that offenders face the full weight of the law. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
You are watching the live broadcast of AM News. When AM News return, Iran challenges International Atomic Energy Agency on double standards. Details coming shortly, plus foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us. You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is AM News on Global Television. Thank you for staying with us. In business now, the Group Chief Executive Officer, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, the Senate Committee on Public Account, to appear before it to clarify the audit report of 2017 to 2002 to the tune of 210 trillion naira. Topsy Gimba completes the rest of the story.
In a similar sitting, sometime last 2 weeks, Engineer Bayo Ojulari was said to have allegedly avoided the committee, which consequently prompted them to resolve that he must appear before the committee today. Following his perceived usual character before the committee, the Group Chief Executive Officer Bayo Ojulari again refused to appear before it, but rather sent the Chief Financial Officer of the NNPCL, Dapo Shegun, to represent him. Explaining to the committee why the GCEO did not make it himself, Dapo Shegun said his boss was out of the country for the OPEC meeting. Miffed by the consistent refusal to appear before the committee, he therefore insisted that the GCEO must appear before the committee or risk arrest. Senator Ali Wadada seized the opportunity of the meeting and told the media that the committee is aware of the media campaign carried out by NNPCL against the committee, where it is accusing the committee of spreading false information that the company has stolen over 210 trillion naira. But Senator Wadada said that the committee never at the time said that the company stole such an amount of money, but rather was investigating an audit financial report of the company from 2017 to 2002.
Don't place the 103 trillion. By your records and your presentation, it could not be substantiated. So as far as we are concerned, that does not stand as a liability figure.
The chairman of the committee, Senator Ali Wadada, therefore dismissed the sitting and pledged that an official date shall be communicated to the NNPCL for the GCEO to appear. Topsy Gimba reporting for Global Television News.
Nigeria and the European Union have sealed a €20 million initiative aimed at strengthening partnerships between museums, supporting film festivals, and advancing digital creative industries across the country. This was disclosed in a statement issued by the Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to the Minister of Arts, Culture, Tourism and the Creative Economy. The agreement was announced during a high-level visit by European Union delegation led by Ambassador Guterres Magnot, head of European Union delegation to Nigeria and Economic Community of West African States, the Minister Anatu Musa Masawa in Abuja. The federal government has announced plans to raise $32.8 billion in investment to execute the Mission 300 Compact, with $15.5 billion expected from the private sector. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabo, stated this during the Mission 300 stakeholders engagement held in Abuja. The initiative aims to provide electricity access to 300 million unserved people across Africa. On the foreign scene now, Iran's president has warned the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, to abandon its double standards if it hopes to restore cooperation over the country's nuclear program, amid an acute mistrust following Israel and United States attack on Iran nuclear sites last month, and the United Nations nuclear watchdog's refusal to condemn the strikes. Speaking to European Council President Antonio Costa by phone, President Mossad Pezeshkian said the continuation of Iran's cooperation with the agency depends on the latter correcting its double standards regarding the nuclear file. adding that any repeated aggression against Iran will be met with a more decisive and regrettable response. Relations between Tehran and the agency have sharply deteriorated since mid-June when Israel launched air attacks on Iran, hitting military and nuclear sites as well as numerous civilian areas. President Donald Trump has hosted leaders of Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mauritius, and Senegal at the White House to discuss investment opportunities. Trump praised Africa's resource-rich nations and signaled the countries may avoid United States tariffs, pledging more economic collaboration during a state dining room lunch. Gabon and Senegal pitch for foreign direct investments in mining and tourism, while a border African-U.S. summit is expected around the United Nations General Assembly in September. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio have held rare face-to-face talks on the sidelines of an Association of Southeast Asian Nations meeting in Malaysia discussing the war in Ukraine, as well as developments in Iran and Syria. Russia's foreign ministry said in a statement following the meeting in Kuala Lumpur, a substantive and frank exchange of views took place on the settlements of the situation around Ukraine and the situation around Iran and Syria, as well as a number of other international issues. Both sides reportedly expressed interest in easing tension and resuming dialogue in areas beyond the battlefield. In sports stories now, with just 7 days to the start of the highly anticipated Confederation of African Athletes African Under-18 and Under-20 African Athletes Championships, the atmosphere around major Nigerian airports is buzzing with activity. In a statement signed and made available to the media by the Special Advisor of Media to the Director General of the National Sports Commission, Kola Daniel, he noted that top African athletes powerhouses South Africa, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Uganda have confirmed their travel dates and final team rosters. Adding to the excitement building ahead of the event, Daniel noted that South Africa is expected to land with one of the largest contingents, comprising 42 male athletes, 40 female athletes, and 18 officials. The transfer drama surrounding Super Eagles striker Victor Osimhen has taken a new twist, with Napoli rejecting a third bid from Turkish giant Galatasaray, while the players' camp accuses the Italian champions of attempting to force a move to Saudi Arabia club Al Hilal. Bucci Laba, who was closely tracked the situation, provided the latest update in a post on X. Laba stated that Napoli turned down Galatasaray's third attempt to activate Osimhen's €75 million release clause due to Turkish club proposed payment terms. And here we end the AM News. And before we go, let's take a quick recap of our top stories again. We brought to you that in a move that could significantly alter the political dynamics of Osun State, renewed business and technocrat Dr. Akin Okumbi has officially declared his intention to contest the 2026 off-cycle governorship election under the banner of the All Progressive Congress. In business now, Nigeria and the European Union have sealed a €20 million initiative aimed at strengthening partnership between museums, supporting film festivals, and advancing digital creative industries across the country. And on the foreign scene, Iran's president has warned the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, to abandon its double standards if it hopes to restore cooperation over the country's nuclear program, amid an acute mistrust following Israel and the United States attack on Iranian nuclear sites last month, and the United Nations nuclear watchdog refusal to condemn the strike. And in sports now, with just 7 days to start of the highly anticipated Confederation of African Athletes African Under-18 and Under-20 African Athletes Championship, the atmosphere around major Nigerian airports is buzzing with activity. That's it on Global TV AM News. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Now kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen by using @GlobalTVNG. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching. Up next is Global Morning. Stay tuned.
As always, we're pleased to know that we're starting this Friday morning together. Whether you've had breakfast or not, the important thing is we're here now. And they say a great weekend begins on a Friday. Ours is on the road already, and we invite you all to join us as we move things from point A to point B this morning, beginning with a wide range of conversations. This is Global Television. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe.
Hi.
Hi.
And of course, I am Jumai Manson, and it's great to be here. I don't want to sound too official. It's a Friday. You have to loosen up, but take off your wig if you're wearing one. Take off and just relax. I know some people are gonna have busy days today, but you know, it's a Friday. Just relax, take a chill, and just take a sign of relief, a breath of fresh air. You don't have to work tomorrow.
Of course.
For some of us, we're working tomorrow. But at the same time, we're happy for you all that are not working tomorrow. But just calm down, take it easy. Everything's going to be well. And of course, I am Jumai Manson, and it's great to be here. It's a beautiful Friday morning, and I'm sitting close to my amazing co-host.
Well, I'm delighted knowing that Juma and I together will be moving this program this morning all the way till for another 3 hours thereabouts. And what makes it interesting is knowing that we're here and you're there, and together we will have an amazing time on the program this morning. It's a Friday, like you mentioned already,
yes, it is.
And there's no it's pointless to say that a lot has happened this week, some of which we'll be highlighting in the course of our interaction with you today. Turns out it's the 11th day in the month of July,
yes, it is.
A day set aside by the United Nations to commemorate world population.
Yes.
Today we're doing over 8 billion human beings. That sounds big now, doesn't it?
Very big.
Of course, we're going to also talk to you about the trajectory of how the numbers have continued to surge over time, decade after decade, and what the projection is like for 2030, 2050, and all the way till this particular century circles out. By then, hopefully, Juba and I will still be here.
Old and grey, right?
Yes, maybe not on Global Money.
Of course.
We'll be telling our stories.
Of course. But it's an amazing thing that population, it's a combination of you and I on the earth. And it's a very big significance for us that human beings actually are the ones that drive that force to enable you and I, as in just both of us being here, we're part that makes that system go round in circle and all of that. But at the same time, it shows worth, it shows value, it shows that you and I, we matter. It doesn't matter how big or how small we are, but as long as you are alive and you are a human being, you're part of that population system, and that goes a long way. And that is why this day has been set aside to recognize that fact that it's World Population Day. You and I, we matter, we count. It doesn't matter whether things are not going as smooth as it should be. Just know that you are of importance and you matter every day and each day. Very important to know.
That's right. Incidentally, the UN has done something very apt. Given the realities of the time we live in, one of the things they've done is to say this year's commemoration should essentially focus on young people. All right, so creating opportunities for them to soar, giving them access to critical resources, all right, to build capacity, to expand their frontiers.
Very important.
As they say, because, every other thing is evolving, and human beings as well are evolving. So there's going to be that exchange, if you like, call it generational exchange. So for those people who are going to come after this time, for example, what resources are we leaving them with? So the UN is saying, let's focus on helping them build time-tested, time-relevant skills.
Trusted.
All right, let's give them access to whether it's funding, whether it's technical skills, whether it's, exposure of any kind.
Very important.
Of course, we all know it's a global village now. So the spotlight for this year is on young people. So we'll be crunching the numbers for you in the course of the program. In that regard, what are the numbers saying? What are we doing with young people in Nigeria, for example, with the unemployment numbers soaring right through the roof, for instance?
Yes, it is.
What exactly is government doing? What efforts are we making to tame, if you like, the tide of unemployment? Because they say the idle mind is the devil's workshop.
Yes, it is. And I am excited of you know, today, the mark of the World Population Day shows that we should leave something behind for the future generations.
That's
we
right.
shouldn't just abandon them for nothing to hold on to or look up to. So it's very important. This projection is important, and I hope it goes a long way, because like you said, we are evolving when it comes to technology, when it comes to advancement, when it comes to all of these things encompass. We are evolving, whether we like it or not, or whether we accept it or not. You know, there are most people that prefers, quote and unquote, being in the analog era.
Because there's a bit of comfort that comes with that.
I know what, but I'm sure she's watching and she's saying, Juma, if you dare call out my name. But the truth is, she knows who you know who I'm talking about. But at the same time, being analog, we have to understand that we have to involve with technology, whether we like it or not, and that projection is very important, so that we can actually have something to hand over to the future generations. Our children should have something to look up to, hold on to, and say, okay, fine. Because right now, we as we stand, what are we holding on to our past and all of that? But at the same time, it shows great worth, and it shows that we're planning ahead so that we can have a secured future for our young future generations.
I totally agree. And when you talk about secure future, it means we have to be, as a government, as a people, and as a country, be very deliberate and intentional about these things. Let's begin with education, for example, because they say we need to educate the next generation.
Yes.
I was listening to Jimmy Disu again this morning, one of Nigeria's finest journalists from several decades ago, talk about how that in his days, for instance, it was almost unheard of for you to say someone didn't have a degree, a university degree, that money couldn't be the problem.
No.
Not because people had all the money running into their houses. It was just such that it was the reality of the time. According to him, especially if you were from the southwestern part of the country.
Yes.
So it shows that education has always been a factor across generations, across centuries, across the world. Therefore, we are now at a point in our history as humanity across the world where the shift has now started favoring, and that has been the case in a long time anyway, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. That is important because we're talking tech now, for example. All right, we're talking science, we're talking technology, we're talking math. I think I love what some parents do these days. They are bringing a bit, they're bringing much more intentionality into the education of their children.
Yes.
So no matter what the child is going to turn out to be in the near future, what do? Beyond the regular school hours, Monday through Friday, they get somebody who teaches them basic or coaches them around basics of sciences.
Yes.
Could be math and physics, could be math and chemistry, could be math and biology. The idea is to ensure that they understand where the world is heading. You need all of these to solve a lot of problems. It's not to say people who are in humanities, people who are in the social sciences or business or law are not making their impact in their respective spheres. It's to say that science drives a lot of things.
Yes, it does.
Mathematics is at the bottom, or if you like, it's at the base of every other thing that we do. Even as a lawyer, for example, as a broadcast journalist like Juma and I, for instance, it takes a bit of math to understand the direction of your workflow, for instance. So we need to be more intentional about that, which also means that at the public level, the government has got to do a lot about policy, for instance. So you don't just want to introduce courses because you like them, because somebody somewhere in the Federal Ministry of Education feels emotional about them. It should be about how do these courses add up? How do they add value? Yes. In the long run, how do they help us compete favorably on the global stage?
Very important, and I like that you mentioned that. You know, like I said, the world is evolving, whether you like it or not, and technology has come and it has come to stay. So that balance in which you have, especially parents who are very intentional when it comes to understanding that, hey, this is where the world is. This is the end thing now. It's a tech world now, whether you like it or not. So it's better we create that balance. I know other professions are important, but for now we should understand that science is key now.
That's right.
Science is really key now. And you as a parent, you have to learn to create that balance. Have an input, or just have that knowledge is very important. And it will go a long way. Yes, it will.
And we hope we continue to have government after government after government that will be focused enough to make very radical, focused intentional investment in education. We understand, for example, I mean, charity begins at home. They say
Yes, it does.
in the FCT, for instance, pupils of public schools have been at home for, I think, the third month.
Yes, 3
All right,
months.
that is an entire term.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at the academic calendar, that's not something to be proud of. In a city where we spent almost 3 weeks commissioning projects. All right, these are great ideas. These are great projects, laudable, commendable, no doubt about it. But if we are altruistic enough, if we are frank with ourselves, I would say the children today are the leaders of tomorrow. And then we've got to put our money where our mouth is.
Very important. I always say that, like you mentioned, we have to put our money where our mouth is. The children are the future generations. We have to acknowledge that. And that is why it's very important that we hold education in a very high esteem.
Right.
I think we do not in this country. I think we just allow it to waver and just pass by. But the truth is, education is key. It doesn't matter at what level, at all levels, it's key. And it takes a lot for us to really understand it. All sectors, like, by the way, when it comes to health and all of that, but there are some major sectors that has to do with human lives, very important. And we have to take due diligence when it comes to issues of education. And I don't think we don't take it seriously enough in Nigeria. And that's why most of our politicians, individuals who are high up there, they prefer their kids schooling abroad because there are no interruptions.
Right.
Like, imagine little children at primary school having to be interrupted when it comes to 3 months. That's a whole term out of school. And like I mentioned, in schools now, they're writing exams. Some are even done with exams.
That's right.
And it's just unfortunate that this is what it is. These kids, who have they offended? What do they even know? They're very little. They have no clue of what is even going on in the country. But it's just unfortunate that this is what it is. This is that was what happened. But at the same time, I hear they're back in school now, which is good. And of course, that's a good thing. And kudos to kudos to individuals who are responsible for that. And at the same time, please, I just pray this never happens again, because it's not. I don't think it's fair.
Yeah,
and I think we owe the children much more than just, we owe them a lot. And I think, please, it shouldn't happen again. I'm just no comment right now.
All right, I think that's where we might have to step on our brakes for a second, talking about World Population Day and several strands around the conversation. But it's ongoing, and that's our focus here in the program today, because when we return, there's so much more to look at. But let's take a break at this point. We'll take a look at the papers for you, and behind that, Ogochukwu Mobuno will bring you Social Buzz.
All right, it's a beautiful time, and it's still Global Morning, and of course it is the newspaper review segment at about this time, and we will start with the first paper of the day, and we'll start with the Punch newspaper, giving us some very punchy headlines. And above the nameplate, it says Buhari government went after my allies post 2015 election, and that's Jonathan. And he says here, NNPC refineries may never work again. And that's from Dangote. Corrupt politicians using crypto wallet to launder money, EFCC chair. And that you will find on page 7. Now, beside the nameplate of the Punch, it says Nigeria rejected U.S. push to accept Venezuelan deportees. And that's from Tugger on page 9. And on the Star story there says autonomy standoff. Governors get 4.5 trillion naira LG funds 1 year after Supreme Court ruling. And like the saying goes, delay is not denial. And here it says GTCO plans fresh expansion after London Stock Exchange listing. And if you're business inclined there, I think that will interest you. And you can find that read on page 25. Now, the foot of the Punch, it says Ighodalo angry as Tinubu government praise Okpebholo's court victory. And that read you will find on page 8. 3-year-old boy dies inside Lagos soccer way, and that you will find on page 4 and 5. LG poll, ballot snatching will trigger by-elections. LASIK warns, and you will find that on page 8. And unfortunate incident of the 3-year-old boy who dies in a Lagos soccer way. I think we shouldn't leave it open. From the picture we see there, it's open, or people use planks, or will I say wood, to cover it up. It's dangerous. Please, it's very dangerous. And for as much as that is dangerous, the owners of the house and parents should please keep watch on their very little children. It's very important that, they're very inquisitive and very curious. So, well, unfortunate incidents there. And then Uyi will run us through the next headline. All
right, let's take you through the next one. And this happens to be sports specific. It's called the Punch Sports Extra. We'll begin with one here that has a picture of, well, maybe some people say is the hot cake now. Victor Osimhen. It says Napoli rejects Gala's 75 million euro Osimhen bid. Bayana eyes successive wins against Tanzania. Tunisia, Algeria draw in North African derby. Golden Boot race heats up at WAFCON. WAFCON is a big story, right now, as far as the footballing world in Africa is concerned. 44th, Nigeria record lowest FIFA ranking in 6 years. That's almost deflating, but we move, as they say. Left side of the paper, Alonso tells Madrid to sell Asensio. All right. In being more frustrated by United's delay, Arsenal to end the Gyökeres race. And then we have the big one here. Botswana 0, Nigeria 1, Scrappy Falcons. Late Ihezuo strike ends quarterfinals sports. That came at the nick of time, really. All right, so let's take it down a little. Just 3 more headlines. This will be bottom right and has to do with tennis. It says Aruna suffers narrow loss in U.S. Smash Classic. Aruna, one gentleman that puts Nigeria on the map when it has to do with table tennis. But this time we hear he has suffered what has been described as a narrow loss in U.S. Smash Classic. Wolves Wiki Khalifat Barau promoted to Nigeria Premier Football League, that's NPFL. And what more do we have here? It says Chachedo hands Chelsea injury boost. So for all sport lovers watching right now, you want to look at the Punch Sports Extra this morning and have more than a plateful in terms of updates and all of the big developments across the world of sports. Let's flip over now to the Daily Times newspaper.
All right, now the Daily Times newspaper, above the nameplate of the Daily Times, it reads, FG to close job gap, audit skills center nationwide, and that's from the Vice President Kashim Shettima. And below the nameplate, it said, killing of 2-year-old, Senate urges Tinubu to pay 200 million naira compensation. And if you're wondering what that story is all about, you have to flip over to page 7 of the Daily Times. Now, below all of that, it says here, Plateau killing. Governor Mufuwang inaugurates 150 agro ranges, and that you will find on page 5. And next, you have 210 street beggars arrested in FCT over criminal activities. And that you will find on page 14. Now, audit report, Senate insists Ojulari must clarify on accounted 210 trillion naira by NNPCL, and that read is on page 2. Page 10 says Senator Akpoti Uduaghan stripped of committee chairmanship position. and that is on page 10. Edo Supreme Court verdict blow to justice, democracy, Ighodalo, and that is on page 2. And still on the Daily Times, it says financial fraud jumps 45%. Digital platforms account for 70% of losses, and that is from the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria. If you're wondering what is going on when it comes to these stories, then you have to rush over, pick up a copy of the Daily Times, and be well abreast with issues making round. Next is a New Telegraph.
All right. In this case, we begin with the headline above the name mask for you. Here reads, reports improved local refining to accelerate Nigeria's GDP to 3.6%. Federal government's loan scheme, conditional grant beneficiaries hits 900,000, so we are inching closer now to 1 million. Beneath the nameplates, top left of it, EFCC warns Nigerians against rising virtual assets, investment scams. Edo, that's a kicker. Supreme Court upholds Okpebholo's election. The writer says, what does it say here? It says, be magnanimous in victory, Tinubu tells Governor as Obaseki. Others react. Read up those details on pages 2, 3, and 7. Today's issue of the New Telegraph newspaper. Here it says, LASIEC releases validated candidate list for Lagos LG polls. Odds favor APC despite opposition's optimism. Details are waiting on pages 6 and 11 as well. Senate replaces Natasha as committee chair. That story came through yesterday, and today it has replicated across almost all the national dailies. We have the Star headline here that tells us 21-day ultimatum. NMA warns of total healthcare shutdown. Says over 30% of consultants, 40% resident doctors left Nigeria. That's a huge bang when you talk about brain drain. Illicit pharmaceutical products, customs, NAFDAC inaugurates committee. That's a long overdue, but as they say, better late than never. APC NEC, Akume backs out of national chairmanship race. Tinubu never stopped 5-year multiple entry for U.S. citizens presidency, so it was almost tit for tat when the U.S. reviewed its visa issuance policy, which didn't favor Nigeria. But hopefully, authorities on both sides are now having a table talk about this issue. Coalition joining ADC mistake for Atiku Mark. Bade George. Is he saying that because they left the PDP? Well, let's see what the writers tell us. Says party wants zone presidential ticket to the north. In 2027, ADC disowns viral list of state chairmen, fake online registration. Oton rejects coalition, backs South to retain power. Details on pages 4 and 7. Then we come down here and see something that says ranching solution to feed insecurity. That's according to the chief of army staff corps. Just a rider accompanying that headline. Nestle blames Mokwa floods on poor railway infrastructure. So what lessons have we learned? How vital are they? And in what specific ways do we intend to apply them for better outcomes in the future? And then one here that always thrills me at the very foot of the front page of the New Telegraph this morning. Parental childhood lead exposure can cause memory decay in kids. Parental childhood lead exposure can cause memory decay in kids. That's according to a study. So read up the technical details on page 28 of the New Telegraph. And Nigerian Tribune is up next.
All right, down the Nigerian Tribune and above the nameplate, it says Arewa Economic Forum warns against CBN's new BDC's recapitalization. And the writer there reads, cites threat to northern economy, national security seek extension of policy. And that you will find on page 6. UBA announces strategic expansion into markets across Africa, and that is on page 7. Over now, when you flip over to page 28, it says Nigeria won't bow to U.S. pressure to accept Venezuelan deportees. Are we done with... No comment. That you will find, I read on page 28. Now, below the nameplate, the star story there says how Adoke, others stopped Jonathan from removing me as governor, and that's from Shetima. And the writer reads, ex-AGF was haunted globally over $1.3 billion OPL 245 saga, and that's from Jonathan. And it says, I have forgiven everyone behind my ordeal, and that's from Adoke. And that you'll find on page 2. And I'm still on the Nigerian Tribune. It reads, Fabio removed Natasha as Diaspora Committee Chair. Appoint a Akwa Ibom senator in her place. And that's read is on page 27. And on page 3 it says NNPCL must account for 210 trillion naira, Senate insists. Flood may unleash toxic chemical, poses risks to elderly ecosystem, UN warns, and that is on page 22. And still on the Nigerian Tribune, it says Supreme Court affirms Okpebolo as Edo governor. And that you will find on page 4. And finally, Edo State Governor. Now we're done with this back and forth, and forth, and now everyone can rest now. So with that, go out and get yourself a copy of the Nigerian Tribune and be well abreast with issues, interesting issues making rounds, by the way. And next is the Daily Trust.
Okay, we move to start from the top right corner, front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. This morning says Shetima visits Buhari in London. Is that part of the politicking, or is it a courtesy call of some kind? Well, we will continue to track all of these for you. So much of intrigue, so much of drama, all geared towards the 2027 general election. Amidst high electricity costs, Varsity's health facilities yet to get subsidy. Military airstrikes kill many terrorists in Zamfara, KB. And then the Star headline has a kicker here. LG funds, after 1 year, nothing has changed. Of course, we know there's a Supreme Court order that was a game changer, or was supposed to be a game changer, but today that conversation has become one over which we are dilly-dallying as a government and as a country. There has one rider says councils received 3.408 trillion naira through state governments in 11 months. All right, operative clause there, through state governments. That was not the plan, all right, according to the Supreme Court judgment. But what can we say? Let's see other headlines for you. How Adoke stopped Jonathan from removing me as governor. That's credited to Vice President Kashim Shetima. Bandits abduct palace administrators, burn houses in Plateau community. Senate removes Natasha as Diaspora Committee Chair. FCTA arrests 210 beggars in Abuja. All right, let's go to the Nation newspaper next and see what more headlines we have there for you.
All right, on the Nation newspaper, above the nameplate there, it says UBA announces strategic expansion into key markets across Africa. And below the nameplate again, it says Shetima visits a line in Buhari Abdusalami in London, and that you will find on page 5. I am not in race for APC chair, says Akume, and you will find that on page 5. Senate removes Natasha's committee on diaspora chair, and you will find that read on page 27. It's making rounds, by the way, in all newspapers. And the Star story reads, visa restriction, Fed government rejects United States claim on reciprocity. And the writer reads, President didn't stop 5-year visa for Americans. Nigerians won't accept Venezuelan criminal deportees. Oh, mine. And it says here, Mustafa gets knocked for downplaying Tinubu's role in Buhari's 2015 triumph. And the writer says, Garba Shehu, no need for bickering. President's support vital. And you know, you know what? You know the writer that says Nigeria won't accept Venezuelan criminal deportees. You know, Venezuelans and Mexicans, they don't downplay when it comes to criminal acts and all of that. They can be very brutal, you know. So I think they should be well investigated.
I think it's also good that these angles are beginning to emerge about this development, because before now, all we knew was that there was a bit of a diplomatic row, right, between Nigeria and the United States. But a few more angles are emerging, and we'll see what happens with this issue about Nigeria refusing US's proposal to accept a certain number of Venezuela deportees.
You know, we have a lot, as a country, we're still dealing with a lot. Like, we don't need more to what we have right now. I don't think we have, because we still have internally displaced individuals all over the place. Where are we going to put them? No, we have a lot that we're dealing with as a country. Really, we actually need help when it comes to issues like this. So I think we need to tread softly, and the United States should understand that our country is going through a particular reform now. We're trying to get by. So it's very important that we understand all of these things. But go out and get it. It's just me, Jumai Manson, saying, and of course, but I think in Nigeria, we need a lot of help when it comes to reforms, you know, our economy, when it comes to employment. We are dealing with a whole lot right now. But let's see, let there be a balance, because we have a bilateral relationship and because visas going back and forth and all of that. But hope this issue is mended as soon as possible. But next is The Guardian. And over to you, Lee.
All right, let's see what we have on the Guardian front page this morning. Top left corner with a picture of the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmood Yakubu. INEC deploys online party registration portal as applications hit 129. We understand groups are falling over themselves now to get registered as political parties going into the 2027 general polls. Federal government shrugs off U.S. pressure to accept foreign prisoners, deportees. Why Nigeria of all places? I mean, Venezuela is on one continent, Nigeria is on a totally different continent. Because we understand the UK was going to do this, I mean, something similar with Rwanda the other time. We have no idea how that's coming right now, but I'm not sure this is one road Nigeria wants to walk on.
I don't think we want to walk on this road right now, please.
All right, let's move on with the headlines for you. 210 trillion naira probe. Senate berates NNPC LBAS for defiance, issues ultimatum. I hope it's not a case of I wasn't the one in office when this whole thing happened. All right, then there's a kicker here for the big headline. Says elderly care, emerging boom in home services, costly substitute for ailing hospitals. On the right corner of the paper, security operatives killed, others missing in fresh Benue attack. ECOWAS court rejects bids to overturn $10,000 judgment against Nigeria. All right, and then we go down a little further. Here one decides Lagos LG polls, APC opposition parties bicker over exercise. Read of those details, by the way, on page 28 of the Guardian newspaper today. Ighodalo accepts Supreme Court's verdict, decries robbery, betrayal of Edo People's Trust. One we understand. On the other hand, he has also accepted the verdict of the Supreme Court,
defeat.
Even though he's not comfortable with it. But that's how the law works. They say the law is on ours, right?
Yes, it is.
All right, let's see perhaps the last one from the Guardian newspaper this morning, with a picture of a very ranking member of the People's Democratic Party from Lagos State, Mr. Bode George. It says, ADC coalition faces uphill task to unseat Tinubu, say presidency. Bode George. Details await you on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. As it turns out, that's all the papers we're bringing your way today. Do well to take a look at them beyond the headlines, look at the details and find context and perspective so you are able to avoid fake news and misinformation. Also remember, very importantly, that Global Television never makes any editorial contribution to these papers. We only present them to you as already published by their respective publishers. We're taking a break now that will allow Ogochukwu Mabudo.
Exactly, Social Buzz is up next. But just stay tuned. Global Morning continues immediately after that. Good morning and welcome to Social Buzz and Global Warning. I am Ogachukwu Mobno. It's a beautiful day to look at what's buzzing on the internet. Well, Ibadan North residents write open letter to APC National Secretary. What exactly is in the letter? Well, the letter reads, hands off Ibadan North. This is not Osun. And then they went ahead to say, dear Dr. Sharuddin, I beg your pardon, Surajuddin Ajibola Bashiru, this is an open letter not to you but also to Mr. President, the acting APC National Chairman, and every true progressive watching the unfolding drama in Ibadan North Federal Constituency. We are deeply disturbed by your sudden interest in the upcoming Ibadan North by-election, especially your decision to convene an unofficial meeting with selected aspirants at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, July 8th, 2025, a meeting that neither bore the official seals of the party nor followed due process. Let it be clear, Ibadan North is not Osun State. We urge you to focus on your personal governorship ambition and steer clear of our local political terrain. Playing with fire in Ibadan North will burn more than fingers, it will burn bridges, loyalty and integrity of the APC. As National Secretary, we understand you carry weight our aspirant chose to honor your invitation out of respect for your office, not for any personal allegiance. We now ask that you extend the same respect to them and to the good people of Ibadan North by keeping your hands off our internal democratic process. They went ahead to say it is no longer a secret that you have been allegedly compromised by sons of the late Arisekola Alao, who is desperate to buy his way to victory through backdoor consensus. This desperate plot to use your office to force a candidate on Ibadan North residents is not only shameful, it is dangerous. Well, lastly, they said, do not be a tool for destruction. This is addressing, the secretary to the APC, and they said, the people of Ibadan North are watching. The party faithfuls are aware, and history will remember those who stood on the wrong side. We're using this medium to appeal to Mr. President and the acting APC chairman to keep a close eye on this process before a few selfish actors rip apart the fabric of unity in the APC. In conclusion, they say, let the will of the people stand, let there be a free and fair primary election. We say no to imposition, no to backdoor deals, and no to using national offices for personal gains. Well, this is where it is. When things like this start coming, people call it a threat, but it is not a threat. The people of Ibadan North knows what they want, and they do not want any form of bias, any form of implication. They are saying right now it is an open letter to the secretary of the APC, Bashir, and they're saying, please do not be involved in backyard policy. Our politics. Do not be involved in politics that do not favor the people. Do not be involved in vote buying. Do not be involved in things that will make people start thinking, is the APC a party? Is it a biased party? No, they do not want that. They want a free and fair election. And they are writing this letter openly ahead of the election coming up in Ibadan. I hope the secretary gets to see this and also adhere to the complaint or to this letter, whatever it is, this letter is meant for, and actually stand with the people. Everyone wants free and fair election. The election is coming up and everyone is gearing towards that election in 2027, both the presidential election, gubernatorial election, and every other election that we'll be seeing in Nigeria. And we do not want any situation whereby people start complaining that the party or one party is being biased or one secretary is trying to buy votes or favors. Well, we have just one comment, and it's coming from Alao region. Alao region, okay. Alao region says,
Why would they do vote buying? Why do you think there'll be a vote buying? There's nothing like vote buying. Do not worry. He's cool. He doesn't have a problem. He's a good secretary. Well, I would believe that. Then the next comment is coming from Joseph. Joseph says, whatever it is they want to do, they should do. At the end of the day, they are all the same. No, please, let's not start it that way. At the end of the day, they are not all the same. Let's not say it that way, because when we start dropping comments like this, it makes people, do not have hope for the election anymore. People lose hope before the election and just feel like, okay, their votes do not count. But please, your votes count, and we want to see everybody in the polling unit on the day of election, and make sure you vote for your conscience. Make sure you vote for whoever you want to see there to lead you. Well, that's all we have today on Social Buzz. I hope and I know you have comments concerning these issues. This is a fresh story, so I would want you to drop your comments using the social media handles you're seeing right now on your screen, and drop your comments. We'll be taking comments. We'll be taking your comment might just pop up one day. We'll be taking all of these comments and making sure that we reply to them. Well, I'll be leaving you in the hands of the Global Morning crew as Global Morning continues. I am Ogochukwu. To stay with us.
All right, thank you everyone for staying with us. Just to quickly also thank Ogochukwu Mobuna for taking the time every other weekday to bring us up to speed with regards to stories that are trending across social media. And it will appear these stories are never ending.
No,
just when you think you've seen it all, and then there's one weird story that makes you cringe, makes you scratch your head. Some of them even make your head spin. Because these are things you've never experienced, you've never heard of, and it's amazing how they have become people's real-time experiences somewhere in the world.
And it's just unfortunate that these are real stories, human angle stories, and I'm glad that individuals have their own comments when it comes to issues. People have various opinions, but it's just unfortunate that this is what happens on a daily. Individuals go through this sort of issues. It happens. It is real, and that's why we're talking about tech, and that's why tech has come to stay, in order to project these things for you to get opinions and what is really going on. But hopefully there's a check and balance. It might not go out completely when it comes to stories that make you cringe or make you fear, but at least there will be some sort of subtle when it comes to that level in a sort of way.
Yeah, sure. There will always be another thing we try to do here on Global Television is to ensure that we look at the sources of those stories, try to do a bit of due diligence around them, just so we are not found complicit in pushing or advancing false narratives. But again, like Jumai mentioned, these stories are particularly touching because of the human angle elements in them. They are not political, all right? They are not about elections. They are about real human beings who are dealing with real challenges, and we're grateful once again to Ogochukwu Mobuna for going all the way to make it happen weekdays here in the course of Global Morning. So again, like we mentioned a while ago this morning, our focus is on World Population Day and how young people can be better empowered, all right, for a more promising future. Everybody will always get into the future one way or another, but how you get in there, what you bring with you, all right, these are very, very important factors that we cannot pretend about. So again, one of the things we were going to mention just before that break a while ago was the need for critical investments, all right? Maybe we want to start from our budgeting, for example.
Very important.
The most recent, which is of course the current one, is the 2025 budget, which even the IMF has picked holes in. That's a story for another day. But we're saying, for instance, if you look at the budgets, all right, so as they call them, the budget items, how much have we budgeted for education? Because they say that you determine someone's priorities by how much of, where the bulk of their time, their money, and their energy goes into. So if I want to know what matters to Jumai, for example, I look at what does she do with most of her energy, most of her money, most of her time, 7 days a week. I won't have to ask her because I've already seen a pattern. All right, so if the bulk of your money, time, and energy, for example, goes to, let's say, technology, we can say, well, maybe you are just a device or you're a gadget freak, as they say, that kind of thing, because you want to buy the latest laptop, you want to buy the latest phone, you want to buy the latest everything.
Electronics.
Generally. Your bulk of your money goes there. Or you shop a lot, you're an impulsive shopper, you want to buy at every turn, at the snap of fingers. We also know, okay, well, this is what matters to this person. So for us as a country, as a government, as a people, as a society, how much of investment do we make in education for young people?
Very true.
It's very important, all right? We're seeing people who leave Nigeria, for instance, because they say they want to go seek greener pastures. Some of them are not just going to look for jobs that will pay them $1 million every other month. The idea is to go get what they call sound education.
Very true.
We're also seeing a tilt, for example, in favor of private universities. Like Juma also mentioned in passing a while ago, is because parents and guardians understand very fundamentally that your children in those schools will graduate in record time.
Exactly.
It feels great when you're getting into a university from day one, at that point where you're just getting into the system. You already know when you will graduate.
It's an amazing feeling, Uyi. Like I always, like for those of us that were in the university and then we had to go on strike. Right. One of those people that went on strike 8 months, 1 year when it happened.
An entire session.
An entire session just went down the drain, and you were wondering. It's an amazing feeling when you're in your 100 level, and then the next thing you know that, okay, you just project yourself and you say, by the grace of God, in the next 4 year I'm out of here, or 5 year. But unfortunately, sometimes that is not always the case, and that's why individuals strive as much as possible to take their children outside the shores of Nigeria, if possible even Ghana, Cotonou, places, even if they cannot afford international waters or foreign countries, but African countries close by, as long as they get that quality education and they know they're graduating on time to proceed and start off life, go ahead.
And knock yourself out.
Exactly, knock yourself out. And of course it happens. And these are some of the things we need to put into consideration. It's very important, Uyi. It's very heartbreaking when you do not see that the strength and the worth in which you're supposed to put in a particular sector is not there. A lot of individuals, and then the graduates that we have around are just there. Unemployment is everywhere, so it's a lot of things. You just wonder, how can a first class student and then he's jobless? You know, it's a cause for worry. It's a cause for worry, and that is why I am very excited with World Population Day, reminding us that we need to think and prepare for the future for our children. We need to be deliberate about it, to keep something for them to hold on to, because the world is evolving every single day. So it's important that we understand all of these factors. So because right now most of us are not even thinking towards that. We just feel, okay, before you know it, 2026, 2027. But what happens after all of that for those that we are going to, of course we won't be here forever, but we have generations that are still going to be here. And what are we leaving behind? What legacy are we leaving behind? It's very important that we understand. I think we need to tilt and think towards that direction. It's very important. And that is why I'm very happy that today is World Population Day, and the advancements and the things that it brings, it accomplishes it and comes. Very important.
I mean, I can agree less, because we have to keep looking at the numbers. If there's anything amongst several others that the Chinese government, the Chinese people have done very well, is helping to maximize the, well, let's call it blessings that come with population.
Very true.
And one would have thought it would be a weight for them. I mean, something negative, something that will impact the country adversely, but that hasn't been the case. Instead, China has been able to maximize, take full advantage of that factor. India is doing the same. All right, so you have these countries with huge population doing that. Of course, America has always done the same. But in a place like Nigeria, where, for example, I mean, I spoke with somebody yesterday in the course of work outside of the office, and he told me he was in Kenyawas, where you had Uhuru Kenyatta as the president. He made a proposition at that events in Nairobi, and by the time the former president Kenyatta came on, he said, don't ever make such a proposition in public on behalf of Nigeria. He said, because the whole continent of Africa, the entire African continent, looks up to Nigeria. So you can't come here making such a proposition. It will be an aberration. All right, so what it means is that we must look inward, tell ourselves the truth. enough of these second guessing and speculation around our population.
Very true.
1 minute is 180 million. The next is 200 million. The day that follows is 230 million.
This is where census comes in. I think we need to take that very, very seriously.
That's right.
Like we do not have an accurate number. We keep dilly-dallying. Was it 2 years ago, the last time there was a census count?
It was in 2006.
Exactly.
Almost 2 decades now.
Almost 2 decades. You know, when the expert came on my program Inside Today and he said that, I was shocked. And I was like, okay, we do not take these things very seriously. We do not have a number, an accurate number of how many we are in Nigeria. It's just unfortunate. We need to take these things seriously. Like China, for instance, United States, they don't have 2 heads. They have their census intact. They know how many they are.
Right.
So it's very important that all these things are checkmated. It's very important. So we can know and we can move on as a nation, as a population, in order to achieve and get greater heights when it comes to all of these issues. So, it's very important that we know.
Right.
Basically, we can't be guessing or dilly-dally when it comes to population rates and how many we are in a country. It shows that, are we serious, really? Are you for real? So it's very important.
I think that's brilliantly said. Nigeria has to come to a point, and this is that point really, if we want to be committed, to show that we're not just going to keep talking about the same issues every other day, but want to keep moving and acting, so we can have very concrete basis on which we will continue to measure our results. All right, let's step on our brakes real quick here. When we return, a lot more to come. But first off, we'll talk about the nexus that is between population and the economy. Of course, Nigeria will be on the front burner. Do stay with us. Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
This is Global Morning.
Nigeria Week London 2025. It's time to celebrate the pulse of Africa's most exciting nation. It's coming to Hippodrome Theatre from July 24th to 26, 2025, showcasing the best in Nigerian arts, music, fashion, and investment opportunities. Whether you're looking to discover the future of real estate, explore Nigeria's culinary masterpieces, or get immersed in an electric Afrobeat performance, this is the event of the year. You can also join us for a film festival, cultural dance spectacles, and the Recognition Awards. Don't miss out on the business opportunities and cultural experiences waiting for you. Book your tickets now before they're gone on eventbrite.co.uk. Call or text +447 438 893 190 or 080 330 46768 or +447 459 071 747. Visit our website superiorradioandtelevision.com. Nigeria Week London 2025, celebrating the best of Nigeria, is partnered with Civil Society, scaling up nutrition in Nigeria.
In partnership with Global Television.
All right, it's time to put our first conversation this morning on the road in light of the World Population Day. We're going to just look at, for example, how it focuses on young people, what the connection is between economic development, or if you like, socio-economic development and population. In the case of Nigeria, what are the peculiarities? How much have we been able to take advantage of those, and exactly where are we heading from this point on? I'm joined by someone who has a robust background to jump in on this conversation this morning. Priscilla Aerohi Aliko is an economist and a research associate. Is going to help us find some perspective, insights, and context in the course of this conversation this morning. She joins us live via Zoom from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Priscilla, first off, I'll say thank you for, regardless of your busy morning, joining us on the program.
Thank you, Simeon. It's good to be here.
Let's begin with the crux, or if you like, the focus of this year's commemoration of the World Population Day. It's about young people. This is a special day. It's a day set aside by the United Nations, apparently. But beyond today, what should be the core elements of our concerns going forward?
Okay, thank you for that beautiful question. So in terms of young people, we find out that Nigeria has an active young population. So if you look at the statistics, it shows that we currently have a population of around 232 million people, and you find out we have a median age of around 17 years. So that shows that we have a large young workforce in our economy. But you find out that the government is not really doing so much in terms of utilizing these young people in Nigeria. You find large-scale unemployment, and we clearly know that 85% of the Nigerian population is employed by the informal sector, such as hairdressers, taxi operators, and different areas. But we find that we are not utilizing all of these in the country as at present. Young people are still sitting idle. Young people are not skilled. Young people are not educated. Young people are suffering from different kinds of diseases. So if you look at our population, we have not fully utilized our active young labor force in Nigeria. And there are a lot of things we can do to achieve that in terms of our economic growth.
I mean, we live in an age where apparently education is key, but then it will appear the realities of today are compelling us, for whatever reason, to redefine what we call education. A while ago, my colleague Juma and I were talking about how the focus is fast shifting to STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. How much are we doing with and for young people when it comes to educating them, when it comes to, if you like, giving them the necessary tools, the vital and critical skill sets for them to be better prepared or equipped for the realities of today and the future we keep talking about?
Okay, thank you. So to start with, when you look at the Nigeria's budget, you find out that what the government budgets for education is very minimal. As at 2024, it was around 7%, which is less than 15 to 20% marked by UNESCO. So in terms of education, our country is not doing so well to help our young people upskill and reskill. So there's a deficit in terms of what the world currently needs and what the Nigerian population is willing to offer, because there's a depth in skills, and our education, the budget for education is not sufficient enough to cater for the deficits we are seeing right now. Can you hear me?
Data for a second. I know this is a bit of, for many people, well, controversial subjects. In Nigeria, we have the National Bureau of Statistics. We are saying a whole body of statistics coming from the IMF, the World Bank, the AFDB, and a couple of multilateral institutions across the world. How much does Nigeria, especially as a government, integrates the element of statistics and data into planning for young people?
Okay, so when we look at it, when was the last census conducted? That was sometime around 2006. I know there was a proposed census in 2023, but that didn't work. So in terms of, we need data to guide development in the right direction. And when there is no data, we cannot plan. We cannot plan. You find out that, okay, in countries like China, for example, they've been able to actively utilize their young population for economic growth. But that's not the case in Nigeria. That's not the case, because data is even a challenge. So how does the government want to provide policies that would shape the population No way. There's no way to do that because our data is not there. It's inadequate. It's not robust to help people, to help the government create policies that are in line with taking advantage of our youthful population.
The other thing that you mentioned, China, some other persons would maybe also cite India, for example, because this is a country that realized that they have a burgeoning population. I mean, look at the population of India or China alone, and then look at the population of the entire African continent of give or take 54 nations, and then you see what the difference is. But then let's look at how we can get young people. We are focusing on young people for two reasons. One is the theme for this year's commemoration, as already designed by the United Nations. And second, whether we are comfortable with it or not, the future belongs to the young people. So how do we continue to, or maybe begin to leverage data, all right, to drive development for young people? I'll tell you real quick. So there's the conversation around how that if you're a young person, there is no rule that says you must go through a traditional university or polytechnic. There are several other things you can do. Are we just going to say these things sporadically or impulsively, or are we going to sit down, take a second look at the data we're churning out, and be dispassionate about how we analyze this data, and then use them very methodologically to plan for the future of these young people? Because whether you like it or not, for instance, we've seen young people doing great things, no doubt about that, but we've also seen the Japa syndrome and the impact it has had. So help us put data side by side, the growing young population that Nigeria has.
Okay, so if we look at this, if we look at it in another angle, you've already established that young people are majorly in STEM. A lot of them are in the creative economy. A lot of them are in the informal sector. But I'm not sure we have appropriate data to capture the numbers of young people in all of these sectors. So that's why you find out that government is unable to create policies that would help these people thrive in their respective spaces. So in Nigeria, for example, you have young people doing everything for themselves. Their business environment is not even favorable for them. So the government needs to look at building a robust database in terms of young people that are employed in the economy, to also understand the percentage of young people in each of these sectors. And that's the only way we can come up with policies that will help young people, that will help the economy utilize its young and youthful population.
To you about this is really nothing new. It's been here for a while. At some point there was some piece of statistic that claims that at least half of the graduates produced from across our tertiary institutions, universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, all right, are unemployable, all right, unemployable, whereas we should be bothered about unemployment. So how do we deal with a situation, very disturbing development, where you have this chunk of graduates, young people, who are not just unemployed because they can't find opportunities, but even if the opportunities were there, they are unemployable? What do we do with such body of young people?
So that's where in my conversation then, I talked about reskilling. I also mentioned upskilling. You find out that our educational curriculum right now is far outdated in most institutions. So we are still using curriculum that have existed, that have been used in the 1980s. The world is changing. Everyone is going through AI, tech, and all of that. So there's need to embed all of these in our curriculum. If you look at what the statistics says, we have over 600 million Nigerians being churned out. Am I correct? I think around 600,000 enter the labor force every year. And the World Bank estimates that the Nigerian government will have to create 2.5 million jobs every year to meet up with this population of graduates that come into the market. But just like you said, so there are young people who have graduated, but they are mismatched because they don't have the skill to They don't have the skill to thrive in what the world of work is saying right now. So there is need for us to like change the curriculum in schools. There is need for us to start teaching young people things early enough. For example, in most Nigerian schools, you find a lot of students many students are really after graduating with a good grade. I'm not saying that's bad in a way, but there are other things. Internship needs to be taken seriously across different courses. It's beyond just, it's not just about either you're studying chemistry, you're studying microbiology. There needs to be internship for students so they can understand what the world of work is, what real world of work is before they get into the labor market. Then we're able to minimize the skills mismatch, because students can go back to school after their internship and reevaluate themselves and upskill themselves in areas that they think they are lacking. So that's one way I think we can balance this mismatch that's currently in play right now.
Inclusion, where we have issues with, marginalized groups, so that women, children, young people, and all of that. In practical ways, how do we approach inclusion from the standpoint of young people, those you mentioned? I mean, you said a while ago, are in the informal sector. How do we include them? How do we drive inclusion in such a way that we, over time, are able to integrate, or in some cases, reintegrate them into the formal space?
Okay, one way to do that. So to start off, you find out that in Nigeria, for example, we still have, for right now, the UN estimates that we have 20 million out of school children. And in most places in Nigeria, you find out that girls are not allowed to go to school. So one way to do that is to create policies that help them do this. And another angle we can look at it is that many women are employed in caregiving. When I mean caregiving, they are taking care of their family, they are taking care of their children, and nobody is paying them. So I remember when we had a conversation with the NBS. So some of these things are things that needs to be looked into. They needs to be looked into. In terms of people in the informal space, in terms of inclusion, that's when we talk about the government creating policies that could favor these people, access to loans, development, learning and development, entrepreneurship development. All of these could help build all of the people in the informal sector upskill such that they can take up formal employment if they choose to.
All right, I think there's something more we need to talk about, but first off, let's talk about the Japa syndrome. These brain drain, these, if you like, this path that takes people, the finest of us, the best of us, the most experienced of us, the smartest of us, away from different sectors, whether it's health, banking, tech, education, consulting, what have you, from Nigeria to the, continental America, to Europe, to Asia, and everywhere else. Now, first of all, help our viewers understand the fundamental factors that drive this pattern, what the economic implications are, and the possibility of reversing the trend.
Okay, so in terms of this Japa syndrome, this just me speaking to a few people who have left. First of all, the environment is hostile. A lot of people are not leaving Nigeria because of the money. A lot of people are leaving Nigeria because of the quality of life. As of December 2021 to May 2022, we found out that 727 doctors japaed from Nigeria to the UK, and that's like putting pressure on the available doctors. Currently, I think we have around a ratio of 1 doctor to 2,000 Nigerians, which is not supposed to be the case. But this brain drain happening in the economy is making the economy lose so much, because our people are growing. The government has not been able to fully take charge of remittances coming from abroad. Unlike what China is doing, China exports their citizens abroad, and they still have enough active workforce that can be engaged in manufacturing sector. and they're able to utilize their diaspora remittance for their growing economy. I think the government will have to start looking at that in terms of creating a favorable environment for people, in terms of creating better life quality for people. Even doctors are leaving because you find out that the facilities for them to operate is not really there. You find doctors in most centers using lanterns to conduct operations. So people leave because of some of these reasons. They leave because they feel they can do better with their skills. They feel they can be appreciated more in the diaspora than currently in Nigeria. And that's putting a pressure on us and putting a pressure on the available workforce that's left.
What more can we say? But let's turn our attention to the private sector for a second. At some point, we hear things like PPP, public-private partnership. At some point, it appears the private sector, the organized private sector, that is standing all by itself. In what ways, specifically, is the private sector also harnessing population for the greater good, I mean, for all the right reasons? For instance, there are those who say big corporations in this country find a way to exploit the lack of opportunities that we have for young people. Therefore, they make them very weird and unpleasant offers, exploiting the already very dire situation and things like that. Is the organized private sector, from what probably data shows us, making the situation better or just worsening an already bad situation?
Well, in my perspective, I think the private sector is utilizing the population, but not to the level we want to, because I was reading a report a few weeks ago, and I found out that, okay, it says that around 50% of the Nigerian population earn less than 50,000. A lot of them are employed in private sectors, a lot of them in government as well. But then, just like you already mentioned, a lot of private companies are taking advantage of young people, giving them incredible offers that just that helps them live from hand to mouth. Most of a few private sectors are offering social benefits. By what I mean is pension facilities, HMOs to their employees, group life assurance, but many of them are not doing that. Our statistics show that around 90% of the Nigerian population pay out of pocket for healthcare, education, and even to access clean water. So that's a challenge. A lot of private sector, just like you said, are taking advantage of our population by not offering them what they are supposed to be taking. We find graduates currently, Nigerian graduates, even people that have masters, earn less than 200,000. Our statistics shows that only 2.4% of Nigerian population earn above 200,000. So the rest of the population is just there. So the private sector would have to do more to ensure that our youthful population is actively engaged in a way that they are able to thrive and not strive.
Almost uninspiring, but is the reality, and that perspective to a very large extent is supported by data and if you like empirical evidence all over the place. But we know this conversation must end within the next 5 minutes, so we're going to make the most of it. Let's talk about policy, because you mentioned that in passing just a while ago. Policy framework. How much of policy, if you like, guardrails do we have against not being able to harness the potential trapped in young people in this country? Of course, we know policy has always been a big conversation across sectors in Nigeria. Just yesterday, for example, I was talking to somebody about agriculture, and we're looking at, the history of policy somersaults in this country. So let's talk about policy-specific elements as they have to do with young people and empowering them in this country.
Well, policies have always been there. Policies have always been there, but how effective have policies been? So currently, I know that they are going to do a GDP rebasing, and Nigeria is going to be the biggest economy in Africa. Currently, it's the fourth, but because of the GDP rebasing, Nigeria is going to take the lead because they are focusing on the creative economy. A lot of policies have been churned out in the past to help young people in terms of agriculture, in terms of education, but we do know that a lot of them have failed in the past because people are not walking the talk. We just create policies that are beautiful on paper, but in terms of following them up, no way. No way. Like I already established, when we talk of young people, let's start with education. Let's start with healthcare. Education, the budget for education is far below the benchmark of 15 to 20%. The budget for health is far below the Abuja declaration of 15%. So we need a thriving workforce. We need to create policies that helps young people stay well educated, that helps them become skilled enough to take on opportunities, that helps them become healthy. But we don't see that happening. Although I know that infant mortality has decreased. We have like 72 deaths per 1,000, but that's still far below the benchmark. We need to the government needs to follow through with all of these policies it's giving. Just yesterday, by chance, I was going through the internet. Then there were images of Nigerian universities across the country, and you see how all of them were in bad shape. And then, boom, I saw a picture of a university in Ghana, and it looked so good. And you begin to ask yourself, Ghana has, I think they mark 13% of their budget for education. Nigeria is still playing around 7%. So policies aren't the issue, but I feel that people need to start walking the talk. Our government needs to start walking the talk in terms of policies. Policies are beautiful to make, but then I feel there should be evidence. When we talk about policies, there should be evidence. We don't just want government officials sitting in their office and creating policies. Sometimes I heard that around Abaji, they went to a community there to say that, oh, they need a dam. But when the people came out, they said, no, we don't need a dam. We need schools. No, we need schools. So these are the things we are seeing happening in our space. We need governments to walk the talk. We need evidence-based policies to ensure that we are actively taking charge of our young population. That's my thoughts around it.
I'm very sure your thoughts are invaluable, Priscilla Irohi Aliko, economist and research associate. We appreciate you for joining us this morning via Zoom live from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Here's wishing you the best of the rest of today.
Thank you.
All right, so we're taking a quick break at this point, everyone. Of course, the conversation around population and several elements around it will continue here on Global Television. In the meantime, this is a UN presentation that gives an insight into the trajectory, or if you like, the pattern of how population around the globe has continued to soar from decade to decade, from century to century. It will give you an insight into how it got to where we are today. And behind that, Juma Manson and another guest will be here to look at population from the standpoint of environmental factors. Do stay with us.
World's population surpassed 8 billion a couple of years ago. Today it stands at 8.2 billion. My name is Sarah Hertog, and I am part of a team of demographers that every 2 years revises the world population prospects to get an updated sense of the size of the world's population and how we expect it to grow and change over the coming decades. One of the key findings from our new report is that we do expect that the size of the world's population is going to peak within the current century. We estimate that it will reach that peak of about 10.3 billion people sometime probably around the 2080s. We know that the population at its peak is going to be larger than it is today, and it's going to be much older than it is today. The age structure will have shifted to older ages. What that means for our societies and the implications for sustainable development hinge on how well we plan for that larger and older world population today and in the coming years. We know that there are some countries that are expected to double before the middle of the century in terms of population. They continue to have extremely high fertility and to grow at a very fast rate. The challenge in these countries is to meet the needs of that growing population, to make sure that children have access to education and healthcare, that women and men have access to sexual and reproductive health, that there's jobs to absorb the large numbers of young people who are entering the workforce. In other countries where population is aging very rapidly or declining, there are economic challenges associated with that. There are social challenges. We need policies to ensure that people have what they need and that no one is left behind. The three components of population change are fertility, the number of births, mortality, the number of deaths, and then at the country level, net international migration. Of course, at the global level, net international migration is equal to 0. The life expectancy at birth at the global level is about 73 years today, and that is an increase of more than 8 years since 1995. This is remarkable. This is one of the greatest achievements of humanity ever. We've seen just generally improvements in survival, reductions in mortality, and we expect that by the end of the century, the life expectancy could exceed 81 years. Today, at the global level, the total fertility rate is about 2.2 children per woman, and that's almost 1 child per woman less than it was in 1990. 2.1 children per woman is the replacement rate, which is the level of total fertility in order for the population size to stabilize in the absence of any net international migration. Population trends are integrally related to gender equality. In many parts of the world where fertility remains very high and the population is growing, women are having more children than they say that they want. When women have an education, when they have access to the tools and resources, information, and family planning that they need to make decisions about the number, timing, and spacing of their children, that we see fertility fall. Where fertility is very low and populations are declining, what we see is a lot of women are having fewer children than they say that they want. And I think gender equality is at the heart of that as well. There are all kinds of constraints, things like work-life balance, the need to do care work for aging parents, the high cost of housing and education, inequality in the division of labor within the household. And so just as achieving gender equality is essential to ensuring that women in high fertility countries are able to have the families that they want, so too in low fertility countries. At the country level, migration can have quite a large impact, especially on the trajectory of the future population. It's not predictable in the same way that fertility and mortality are. It depends on demographic factors, it depends on the economic context, and it depends on the political situation. For a number of countries, those that are declining in population size, net migration may be a way to bolster the population size going forward. Since the middle of the last century, when the population was growing at its most rapid rate at more than 2% per year, there have been really dire warnings about the capacity of our planet to absorb growing numbers of people and meet their needs. In truth, some of the most dire warnings have not come to
right, it's Global Morning on Global Television. And yes, this is the second discuss of the day. And let us not forget that today, July 11th, is International Day, World Population Day. And the second discuss, we'll be looking at the correlation between population and the environment. We know that it's a complex relationship where population size and density directly influence environmental conditions. Now, as the population grows, there's increased demand for resources like in water, food, and energy, leading to environmental degradation through deforestation, pollution, and resource depletion. Now, conversely, environmental quality affects population health and well-being. I am being joined by Genzini Arugo. He is a guest, and he works with the Development Finance Professional. He specializes in climate finance, carbon market, inclusive, and of course finance. You are welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Gehizini.
Yeah.
Your name is funny. It sounds really funny. I didn't want to twist my tongue. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, I'm doing very fine.
Now, talking about population, of course, you know, the United Nations has declared today, July 11th, as a World Population Day. Now, how does population growth contribute to deforestation and, of course, inhabit loss, and looking at the environmental consequences around all of that?
All right, so we see that there is a negative correlation between population growth as well as the environment.
Okay.
Now, when the population increases, there is a need for resource extraction. There is a need for, there's an increase in consumption. There's a need for an increase in housing. There's also need for increase in transportations. So when it comes to, so when the population increase, you see that there will be an increase in housing, and that's going to lead to deforestation.
Yes.
And with that deforestation, if it's not being done in a sustainable way, whereby after these trees are being cut down, for housing, they are also being replenished, being planted back. So you see that it has a negative impact on the environment, where there's a loss of natural biodiversity as well as natural capital. So we would have, I would have to advise that it is a call to actually keep to be mindful about the way population size of any country or globally it's being increased.
Now, you spoke about housing. Well, there'll be lack of housing, something like that. You made a mention of that. Now, let's look at ways. How does population density affect water resources? You know, water is very important in a country, in a community, especially when it has to do with population. You cannot do without water. And what are the implications for water scarcity and pollution when it comes to a high number of population?
All right, so let's use, for example, a state like Lagos, Nigeria, where we have a whole lot of persons going into the state because of they are in need of greener pastures for education or what have you. You would come to observe that there would be more demand for water. And that is going to lead to more extraction of water from different sources. And with the expansion of the states, you would see that with this increased population, that actually took in, the water resources would be depleted. So there is a need for a greater investment in water infrastructure to be able to meet up with the increased demand of water within that particular state.
Let's talk about size and distribution of population. How does it influence? Let's talk about greenhouse gas emissions, very important, and of course climate change. Let's balance it. So how does it influence both when it comes to population and what it does?
All right. So when population increase, we have increase in the demand for energy.
Yes.
And that energy cuts across water. There's in the extraction of water, there's energy. in transportation, there is the demand for energy, and in even within our housing too, there is demand for energy too. So when the population increases, there's a demand for this energy. Let's take, for example, transportation. People would want to go to work, people would want to go to school, and in that process of movement, there is the emission of greenhouse gas, particularly CO2, into the atmosphere, which then contribute to global warming as well as to climate change.
Let's deviate a bit now, talking about World Population Day now, and of course, to paraphrase, UN says let's prepare or leave something down for our children or the next generation to come. You know, the world is evolving when it comes to technology, when it comes to population and all of that. How do you think, in your own opinion though, how do you think we'll be able to get to that point where we can actually leave something tangible for future generations to come?
I think practicing sustainability as well as regenerative economy does make sense.
Okay.
Because from the concept of regenerative economy, it means that whatever you're extracting, you're replenishing. And then the idea of recycling. So whatever you use, you tend to do what you tend to recycle. So you don't go back to extracting continuously from the environment. But what you've extracted, you then recycle it for what? For reuse. So in doing so, it reduces the extent to which resources are being extracted from the environment, and as such, it brings about, that's basically sustainability, that's a regenerative practice, and as such, you would see that there would be a whole lot of resources for the next generation to also benefit from.
Now, let's look at what are some strategies for mitigating the negative environmental impact of population growth while also supporting sustainable impact on rural, urban marginalization occasioned by population surge.
All right, so in curbing the impact of policies are always important to curb the impact of population growth. Basically, the government could actually put restrictions on the number of children per family. Then we could also see using of family planning mechanisms where women are being educated on the use of contraceptives to prevent childbirth. Then we also see, I think, we could also see economic growth also has a way of affecting population growth. According to the demographic transition theory, Malthus actually propounded, stating that as a result that the poor, when someone is poor, he see sex as the only way
to release stress.
Good. So the poor tend to have more children than the rich. So if you're able to empower people the more, you're able to give them good jobs, then you would observe that their minds are filled up with activities, and with those activities, it reduces the way they are going to sex and how they actually bring children into the world. Now, with regards to the rural-urban surge, I actually think to be able to do that, the government should be able to create jobs in rural communities.
Very true.
Now, if jobs and then if educational institutions are also built in rural communities, then you would see that there would be this reduction in the rural-urban surge. Due to the fact that there are no sustainable jobs or there are no jobs in the rural communities, that's why you see this the movement which we actually see, and that's what brings about urban cities not being sustainable again, to be able to manage the increase in population that comes into those cities.
Now, talking about the urban areas, now how does the influx of people into the urban areas strain existing infrastructure? Now, when I say infrastructure, I mean housing, transportation, sanitization systems. Now, what are the resulting challenges in all of this encompassed?
All right, so you see that in urban planning,
yes,
there is an extent to which a particular city could, there's an extent to which a particular city should be able to accommodate people. Now, as soon as it exceeds that amount of person, or those number of persons that that it is expected to accommodate, there's that you see that the city needs to be expanded to be able to accommodate more persons. So that means that housing needs to be built, or grasslands or forest needs to be evacuated, and then houses being built in those places. So they are trying to expand. And however, in a place where it's not possible to create that expansion, you see that there's now congestion within that particular
city.
Correct. There's not expansion within. There's now congestion within that particular city, and with that congestion, there's now an increase in the amount of greenhouse gas which is being emitted per capita. That's based on individuals' footprints. Based on the total amount of greenhouse gas emitted divided by the total population within that particular city. So it gives you the per capita carbon emitted within that city. So it becomes actually higher.
Okay. Now, is it a cause of concern that we do not have an accurate population number in Nigeria? Is it a cause of concern? Now, with the United Nations coming out and saying, okay, paraphrasing now, let's leave something for the future, something that they can hold on to. Of course, we are involved when it comes to technology and all of that encompassed. Is it worrisome that it's going to affect us in a certain way? Is there a negative impact affecting the total, that we do not have an accurate population? We do not have a number to peg that this is the number of individuals in Nigeria.
Yeah, it's a call for concern, because if we are able to know the exact number of persons in Nigeria, it aids for economic planning.
Very true.
It aids for development. It also aids for the distribution of income. Now, that's one of the reasons why you see the uneven distribution of income prevalent in the country. So it's actually a cause for concern.
Yes.
And it also prevents us to be able, or statisticians, or those who environmentalists, to be able to account for the total amount of carbon footprint that comes from the country. So it is a concern. So there is a need for us to for a census to be conducted.
Very important.
And for us to be able to know what is the actual population of Nigeria, and then that's going to that data would then be used for economic planning as well as for development.
Okay, now still talking about rural-urban migration. Now, in what ways does it affect social cohesion? Very important, and the cultural identity in both urban and rural areas.
Okay, can you come again with that question?
No, I said, now, in what ways does rural-urban migration, for instance, from urban to rural migration, affect social cohesion? Okay. Now, looking at it critically, and also the cultural identity in both urban and rural areas.
Now, rural-urban migration, there is there's an extent to which it could actually cause economic growth within the urban areas when people migrate from rural areas to urban areas.
True.
Because people acquire better skills in urban area, and in those acquisition of skills, they tend to contribute more to the productivity of urban areas. But however, it leaves the rural areas to be more underdeveloped. Because while these skills, while these talents, while these individuals are actually moving, there's the transfer of economic productivity from the rural areas to the urban centers. So we see that productivity within urban centers keeps on increasing, and then the productivities within rural centers that is actually stagnant or reduces. And that doesn't give us, that would not give a perfect reflection of economic growth, because the reflection of economic growth would then be negatively skewed. Why? Because it's only a partial reflection of a particular region in the country, and not necessarily the entire country. So it's really not good. However, it's a call for effective planning or development planning, constructive development planning by the government and also by the private sector to develop the rural communities.
Now, okay, let's look at environmental consequences now of rapid urbanization. It's very important now due to migration that we just spoke about now, such as increased waste generation, pollution. How does it have the strain, or what strain does it have when we're looking at infrastructure, for instance?
All right, now in waste generation, we see that now when I think I would handle this from sustainable consumption.
Okay.
Now in consuming, or when population increase, there's a need for consumption levels increase.
Okay.
Now with that increase in consumption level, there's a need for more infrastructure to be able to meet that consumption demand, because the consumption is sending a signal to the market that there needs to be more production.
True.
And for more production to exist, there needs to be more investment in infrastructure and productive infrastructure. Now, however, to be able to then meet that increase in consumption level, this investment needs to be made. But however, the emphasis should be on consuming sustainably, where by consuming sustainably, I actually mean that when you consume with the mindset of recycling some of the items that are being consumed or that are being used. Most items, or every item, usually have a lifespan.
Yes.
So when their useful lifespan has actually exceeded, they still do have some economic value. But however, in recycling those items, items, you bring them back into the economy. But however, there needs to be innovations or technologies developed that has the ability of recycling those items that have actually reached their useful lifespan, bringing them back into the economy. So there is a pressure on infrastructure, but however, that pressure on infrastructure is only a call for investment in infrastructure, and then for further innovations to come up for further innovations to be made to strengthen the infrastructure.
Now, looking at infrastructure, I think in a country like Nigeria, we do not recycle, or we do, but it's not as the awareness when it comes to recycle is not really all out there, and because I think people do not understand the importance of recycling. Do you think would that help in a growing population when we look at recycling materials that have value that you can actually reuse? I think individuals, what benefit does it have when we buy a PET bottle, for instance, and we throw it away? Does it have any benefit when it comes to a growing population?
Yeah, it does have enormous benefits. First, there's an increase in sustainable entrepreneurship in Nigeria. However, they are small size, and with the nature of the financial system, you see that banks don't want to give out loans to most of these small businesses. And when they don't provide those loans or those loans to these businesses, they lack capital to be able to grow their businesses. So from a financial point of view or perspective, now there is an economic importance to it. Now it needs education. Now education from the part of the household, those who consume, for them to be able to see the need for recycling. There need to also be incentives too given to them for the purpose of recycling. Now I know of a company, EcoBata. So they have introduced the first vending machine in Nigeria.
Oh, wow.
Where when you take your PET bottle and then you put into it, it gives you a sort of coupons where you could then use it in purchasing something at a shop that is in collaboration with them.
Okay,
so
it's like a trade by barter thing.
Yeah. So those sort of incentives, you are incentivizing the public to be able to do what, to recycle, to be able to recycle things. But however, with the extent of poverty in Nigeria, you see that that's going to have a negative impact on this sort of innovation. So education is actually needed from the grassroots to make them see that, okay, there is a value you could get from recycling this. Now, apart from using that innovations, we do also have, for example, my organization is currently building a recycling facility. I work for an organization known as Clean Technology Hub. So we have acquired the land and we are building a recycling facility, and that recycling facility would recycle from PET bottles down to bottles. So when you bring those items to the recycling plant, you're being paid for it, and then we sort of recycle them or sell them to different organizations who want to use them for other economic purposes. So I think education is important, awareness is important.
I was going to say that.
Then with regards to financing, those within the financial service sector, to commercial banks and microfinance institutions, they need to be able to develop a financing model that allow small grants to be given to these green and entrepreneurs to be able to aid them to bring their innovation to the market as well as to expand, because without capital there is nothing they could be able to do, as well as grant funding too. So the government need to bring up grant funding platforms to offer grants to these sort of entrepreneurs. At least that would encourage them, as well as take this project to a stage where it's bankable, and when it becomes bankable, the commercial banks or financial institutions could then provide capital for them, because their project is non-bankable. By bankable means I mean it's sustainable. Good. That's to say, if any amount of money I invest in it, I am sure of the fact that this business is able to pay back in the future. Very importantly, and to see potential in that, because you know, for microfinance banks or financial institutions, like you mentioned, to actually want to invest in this sort of company when it comes to recycling, which is a step in a wonderful direction. But they have to see potential, and if we can actually stand the test of time, you know, we're Africans, remember, we're not, well, I say quote unquote, we're not like the white people that see potentials in all of these things. But at the same time, we need to know that this is for the development of our country, and of course to boost infrastructure when it comes to development, which is very important. Now, thank you so much, Genzini Arogo, for being a part of the program. Now, to a youth out there, I love to target the youth, because I feel the youth are very powerful individuals, and what you're doing, it's amazing. Having that when it comes to recycling, when it comes to population, and what you do, of course, your forte. Talk to a youth out there who feels that, well, there's nothing to offer and there's nothing to give when it comes to whether recycling or doing something for, you know, the country or something. Say something to someone out there who is listening to you that can actually find potential in what you believe in, basically. All right, so I would say that there is potential in the environment.
Yes.
There is so much of potential also in the country. Being that Nigeria is a developing economy,
yes.
it means that we are not yet developed. Good, we are
We're getting
to
there.
that point.
Exactly.
And in getting to that point, there are a whole lot of opportunities. And it is those opportunities that the youth actually want. So I think they should stay resilient. They should be able to think outside the box. They should be able to innovate as well as also have hope. Because without hope, everything is actually lost.
Yes.
So no matter how a situation might be bad, I know the economy is actually tough right now, but I think for just them being hopeful and then also having a target of where they are heading to, just have a plan, like this is where I want to get to, and then each day you make meaningful steps. Each day you make little steps.
Yeah.
At no point in time you would get there. So I think they need to be able to also look at different sectors. There's potential in sustainable development in
Yes,
the environment.
there is.
There's potentials in financing. There's potential in the digital economy. There is potential in technology. There's potential in agriculture. There's potential in media. There's potential in different sectors. So I think the youth need to look at this sector, what are they passionate about, and then just develop their skills and make little efforts, and they'll be there.
I like the fact that there's potential in media. That's the part I like. I was waiting for you to say, what is he saying? Is he going to mention? Well, I like the fact that you mentioned the media. But at the same time, I like the fact that there's potential anywhere you decide to place that energy in. There's always potential. And I like the fact that you're a Nigerian and you see potential in our country. Let's be hopeful. We'd have no other country, right? We're developing, we're getting there.
Yeah, you see, as last week Friday, we were at with the ambassador of Belgium to Nigeria, and we were talking about, or we did a program with them.
Okay.
For my organization, Clean Technology Hub, where we looked at keeping Nigeria clean.
Very important.
We had to go to the University of Abuja, where we did pickups. We had to pick PET bottles, sachets, and everything from the university. And then there was a closeout event in his residency. So he was actually speaking to the stride which Belgium has actually achieved when it comes to recycling. That for metals, they've achieved 90% of recycling metals.
Oh, wow.
And then made mention of other stuffs which they've been able to recycle, apart from plastic was actually the lowest, where they've achieved about 56%. So he made mention of the fact that Nigeria would not achieve this through them, but Nigeria would be able to achieve this through Nigerians. So in order for us to get to where we want, we need Nigerians to be able to come up, think creatively, bring about innovations, and then try to see how they implement those innovations. So it's not just about having the innovations in your head, but being able to implement those innovations. Just do something. Take the first steps. It might be in your head. That's fine. That's fantastic. You're smart, but bring it to life. Take that first step, and you'll see it blossom into something big and remarkable.
Very important. Now, can I tie this to sanitation, for instance, when it comes to population sanitation, being sensitized when it comes to cleaning your environment? You mentioned the greenhouse, very important. And I think most Nigerians, that is, I was speaking with my colleague, Uyi, and I said, why we have a high level of flooding in Nigeria is because a lot of people just feel I can just use whatever I want and just throw it in that sewer or that gutter or that windpipe that can lead. You feel it's going to flow away. Now, how detrimental is that in our society and, of course, the population, when I can just throw in anything and block drainages and all of that, instead of recycling that? Other countries abroad, there's a bin. It will tell you recycle or the dirt, but we do not have that here, and we do not understand the what danger it brings to us when we keep throwing dirt in the wrong pipe holes or all of that?
Now, that actually leads to contribute to methane emission, which is one of the greenhouse gases. There are basically 6 greenhouse gases that has been recognized by Kyoto protocol that contributes to global warming. Methane emissions also impact. However, it's not as high as carbon dioxide, but however, it also contributes significantly to global warming through landfills. Now, when they dispose that, it goes to landfills or it goes to drainage and then affect the water.
Yes, it does.
Bodies. And when it also affects the water bodies, it also when it goes into the water bodies, it affects organ or living things that are within the water. That's why you see, and I know in Nigeria there's we don't have ocean cleanups, we don't have water cleanup, but in developed countries you actually see that. So it also contaminates the water, and they also go back to sometimes drink those water because there's a connectivity between all of this, so it comes back to affecting you. So there's always a ripple effect on we as individuals. I'll take for example, I was discussing with someone some days back, and he made mention of the fact that in his compound, what they really do is they contribute, or there's someone who comes to pick up their garbages at the end of every month. So there was a man who was his neighbor, and the man didn't just want to pay 2,000 naira per month to be able to get this person come pick up the garbage and then go dispose them well. So what he does is he would have to pack all the garbage and then burn them somewhere close to his house. So he confronted him and then told him that he should stop doing that. And the man was like, is it not my house? He says, is it not my house? And is it not just affecting me? He said, no, I wish it was just affecting me, but they affect everybody within the compound. And if we don't stop doing it, I'm going to report you to the environmental agency. So if we don't get people who have this knowledge and then are willing to take that additional steps to both warn people who are performing negative actions, and then trying to make them understand that if they don't perform, if they don't do the right thing, then they would be reported and there will be sanctioned, because you have to pay for the cost you've actually contributed to the environment. Then we would not see the right action being developed. So I think that has to be done.
Well, Jensen, now human angle. Now let's bring it to the human angle aspect of this whole discussion. What's the danger of burning dirt? Are you kidding me right now? As in, you gather up your dirt, or I see people make a hole and then they pour it in there and they burn the dirt at the back of their houses and all of that. What's the danger in that? Please enlighten.
So it contributes to, so like I had mentioned, methane. So now, when you burn, there is there are emissions. Now that's carbon.
Yes,
the fire that burns,
of course, out.
So that contributes to greenhouse gas emission. It warms the planet, and then it contributes to the negative impact on climate change. Now, if they are being dumped in landfills, methane, because they emit. And while they emit, it also goes to the atmosphere and also contribute negatively to the human environment. Now let's take for example, according to I think the World Health Organization, indoor air pollution has actually killed so many persons yearly. I think I've forgotten the exact statistics, but if you look at the statistics, it's really huge. Kills so many persons each year, as compared to some of the well-known diseases that we might actually think of. Why? Because of the use of cooking stoves, like normal stoves that emits carbon from
smoke and the rest.
So most persons don't know about it, that it's dangerous, but you need to let them know that with this indoor pollution, you're inhaling all of this, and while you inhale all of this, it affects your health.
Yes, it does.
And while it affects your health, it reduces your lifespan. And when it reduces your lifespan, you see that you actually die at a very early age.
Oh, wow. The way you said it, oh my goodness. And then a lot of people, oh my goodness, this has a lot of health hazards. We need to be enlightened when it comes, especially women that like to, when it comes to oil and the whole place is, there's so much smoke everywhere and all of that. We need to be very careful when it comes to issues like that.
Yeah, and there've been organizations, there are organizations in Nigeria who try to provide clean cooking stoves.
Very important.
To remote communities. Some of them do it free of charge for the purpose of okay, I was discussing with someone from an organization in Singapore. So he made mention of the fact that in Singapore they have their a clean cook stove program where they produce these clean cook stoves and then give it to those in rural communities at zero cost.
Oh, that's good.
So however, there's an innovation in the stoves that is able to help them to track the amount of CO2 that is being prevented from going into the atmosphere. And as a result of that, when they track that, they are able to then use that to generate what's called carbon credit. Good. And they can then sell those carbon credits and then make money from those credits or in the voluntary carbon market. Now that is something that we are seeing traction in Nigeria. However, the carbon market in Nigeria has not been fully put into force. Yes, the National Council for Climate Change has actually developed the carbon market implementation plan and manual for procedure, but however, that has not been fully implemented. So in the implementation of that, and then in capacity building, we could see that project developers could be able to develop projects and then those clean cooking innovations, and then they'll be able to track those emissions that is being saved from the atmosphere from the use of those clean cooking stoves, and they could give those clean cooking stoves to women in rural communities for free, and then they could then sell those certified carbon credit to investors who are willing to buy those credit to show that their operations are actually net zero.
And then looking at this critically now, and you just wonder. Now, let's tilt to the woman on the street, the woman who is, she could be educated, she might not be educated. That fries the bean cake, known as akara, in the open. We see that a lot. How hazardous is that to her health and the environment and, of course, population?
Now, it is very, very hazardous. Why? Because those fumes, she inhaled those fumes.
Yes, she does.
Good. And passerbys also inhale those fumes.
Yes, they do.
Too. Now, they may not see, and I think poverty has wired so many persons in Nigeria in such a way that they don't think about the long-run effect of things. They just think about the short-run benefit. Now, in the short run, she is making money, but in the long run is actually impacting her health negatively. And if you're able to do a calculation, you would see that if she falls sick as a result of that, the amount of money she would spend on her health might actually outperform what she gains from doing that. So basically, it's affecting her health. It's also affecting people
around her.
That area. It's also negatively affecting the environment because of the carbon emission to or in the environment. So now we are not trying to say that the women should not do their businesses in any longer, but there are innovations that's able to help them do those businesses in a sustainable way, where they don't emit that volume of carbon to the atmosphere, and it also doesn't affect their health too. So there are technologies, it's just that with the fact that the capital expenditure for purchasing these technologies are high,
very high.
But however, there are financing models that could help them in purchasing these technologies, and then they pay in the long run, or there are some sort of blended schemes, like I had mentioned grants earlier, where the government could actually support with grants, and then commercial capital also helps with the remaining part.
I know because of our time, but quickly now, we're going to talk about climate change. You know, we cannot talk about population and not talk about climate change. It's important. They intertwine in a sort of way because it has to do with the environment, and we, the populations, we live here in the environment. Quickly now, what's the benefit or disadvantage of climate change for someone that is wondering, what is Genzini talking about?
So climate change is basically one of the highest development challenges that the world currently faces.
Yes.
Now, most people don't understand
No.
because when you talk about when you talk about global warming, people do not understand.
Yes.
When you talk about climate change, people do not understand. Now, what I think would make them understand is basically the facts. It's basically making them to understand the fact that while you are performing your daily activities, you're doing that in an environment.
Yes.
And while you're doing that in an environment, there's also a climate. Now, the health of the climate, your health is also associated with the health of the climate. Now, the way you treat the environment affects the way you actually treat the climate. Now, when the climate gets really hot, it affects you as an individual because you feel that uneasy. Good. And as such, you may not be able to go about your daily activities the way you ought to actually go about it. So making them understand that correlation between the environment, the climate, and then humans' activity, I think with to an extent makes some persons, I wouldn't say everybody, I would make some persons to be able to make a change. But however, in the entire talk about climate change and the energy transitioning to a larger extent, I believe that to be able to achieve that, we need to empower people with more financing. Because if you're able to empower people with more financing, with more money, they have more money they could actually spend, and to be easier for you to tell them that, okay, the woman who's on the street, that this particular thing you're actually doing has an impact on your health.
Yes, it does.
Now, with the money they have, they could then say, okay, if it has an impact in my health in the long run, and I want to maintain a good health, I want to maintain a healthy life, I need to make a change. But when an individual doesn't have sufficient capital or sufficient income, and you're telling them climate change, they just have to feed immediately.
Exactly.
So I think to be able to make them understand it on the one hand, and to be able to aid them transition on the other hand, financing is crucial.
Financing is crucial. Well, thank you so much, Genzini, for being a part of Global Morning. Of course, Genzini Arigo, he is the development finance professional, specializes in climate finance, carbon market, inclusive, and of course, finance. Thank you so much for being a part of the program, Global Morning. And you have really enlightened a lot of us. Thank you so much for being a part of the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, let's quickly go on a very quick break, and then my co-host will be wrapping up the program, Global Morning. Do not go anywhere. Stay tuned.
The world's population surpassed 8 billion a couple of years ago. Today it stands at 8.2 billion. My name is Sarah Hertog, and I am part of a team of demographers that every 2 years revises the world population prospects to get an updated sense of the size of the world's population and how we expect it to grow and change over the coming decades. One of the key findings from our new report is that we do expect that the size of the world's population is going to peak within the current century. We estimate that it will reach that peak of about 10.3 billion people sometime probably around the 2080s. We know that the population at its peak is going to be larger than it is today, and it's going to be much older than it is today. The age structure will have shifted to older ages. What that means for our societies and the implications for sustainable
All right, this is about the time where we wrap it up on the program Global Morning. Hope you've been enlightened when it comes to economic part of population and of course the environmental part of population. Do not forget today, July 11th, is World Population Day, and you and I can move this environment forward in a positive light. And we have to drop the curtains, and thank you so much for being a part of the program. I am Jumai Mansit. I'm my amazing co-host with a nice, is it cap or? Yeah, cap on his head.
I thought you were going to call it baseball hats.
Very funny.
All right, I want to say thank you to everyone for watching. Remember that the views of our guests are their opinions. Again, we appreciate you.
Bye-bye.